I recently had a talk with my wife of 11 years. Sadly, it ended with her in tears. This reminded me of a similar situation 3 years ago when I almost lost my job. Back then, my wife, Kate, who is also known as Catherine, was so upset at the thought of me missing our anniversary that she insisted I come home. Fast forward to today, and now it's her who won't be there on our anniversary. I didn't say anything to change her mind. Despite this, the past 12 years have been the happiest of my life. When I first met Kate, she was 24 years old and just starting her career in sales. She visited our architectural firm to convince us to advertise in fancy magazines, which, at the time, we couldn't afford. In the crowd, I couldn't help but notice an enchanting woman with black hair. After discussing the matter with my partner, he helped me grab her attention long enough to ask her out. After our first meeting, she confessed that she knew we couldn't pay for her services. Even with that knowledge, I fell deeply in love with her. Our relationship developed over 6 months, and eventually she moved in with me for another 6 months as she transitioned from a nomadic lifestyle to a stable office job. 4 months later, we tied the knot and became husband and wife. Every day, I still feel like the luckiest person alive for persuading her to marry me. With a sense of urgency, I dialed my boss's number once more. I've been with the company since the beginning, when Craig first started it. Our small team of designers, just 4 of us, achieved remarkable success by reducing production time in various fields. "Craig, I know you're there. Please answer," I pleaded into the phone. Finally, I heard his voice on the other end. "Dan, I'm really busy right now," he replied shortly. Deciding to keep it brief, I said, "Well, I'm leaving right now and won't be back until Monday." In response, he asked, "Leaving? Where are you going?" I replied, "I'm going to celebrate my anniversary with my wife. I'll be back on Monday." "Have a good trip. Don't forget to knock before entering," he quipped. I chuckled and replied, "You always manage to make me laugh." To which he responded, "You know, I hear that a lot, not from those who really know you." Apologetically, I added, "I'm sorry, but ever since they brought this guy in to run Kate's department, there's been tension in our house. Maybe a break at the hotel will help diffuse the situation." I assumed. "Well, it certainly won't hurt. Just do me a favor. When you're seeking adventure, remember me," Craig grinned. "Deal. See you on Monday," I said. I didn't hang up right away, but asked Craig's secretary, Rosa, for a favor. She knew how to work things out, and I needed a plane ticket. After the conversation with her, I headed home to pack. While packing my suitcase, the phone suddenly rang. "You have 45 minutes to get to the airport for security check. The ticket is waiting for you at the counter in your name," Rosa informed me. She'd secured a return flight for me on Sunday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Unfortunately, there were no available rooms at Kate's hotel, so she booked 2 blocks away. "Have a safe trip. See you on Monday," Rosa said. Hearing that, I rushed to the bathroom to grab my shaving kit, packed it quickly, and did a quick check of the room, even turning off the coffee maker, which was unusual for me, before hurrying to the car. Over 15 years, I've discovered several shortcuts that help me reach my destination faster. Despite my high speed, I made it to the flight with plenty of time to spare. After registration, security, and boarding, we finally got on the plane. Once I was comfortably seated, I put on my headphones and played some music. I'm a nervous flyer, and music helps me relax and stay calm. 3 hours into the flight, I was suddenly awakened from a pleasant dream about Kate and me by a gentle tap on my shoulder. I had fallen asleep, which wasn't surprising given my recent lack of sleep at night. Some of it was due to work stress. Kate and I had been going through a rough patch in our relationship for the past few months. For more than 2 months, she had been keeping her distance, not letting me get close. It all started when she told me about a colleague from another department getting a promotion and taking over her own. She was determined to prove that this decision was wrong and worked hard to show her worth. For the first 2 weeks, she came home exhausted, constantly discussing strategies to outshine Mr. Paul Reynolds. But over time, her determination waned, and after a couple of weeks, she mentioned that they had started cooperating. I became increasingly anxious as their joint mission to win a big client approached. Thoughts of a possible romantic relationship between them crossed my mind, but Kate always reassured me. Taking my bag out of the overhead compartment, I pondered how to invite Kate to dinner quietly without giving away the surprise. After taking a taxi to my hotel, I struck up a casual conversation with the driver, who happened to mention a charming, dimly lit restaurant located between our two hotels. Sounds intriguing. I expressed interest because it turned out to be exactly what I had in mind. After checking in, I quickly showered and rushed out. I wanted to catch Kate before she left for dinner. Glancing at the clock in the lobby, I saw that it was almost 5:30. After observing the bustling street, I decided I could walk to my destination and followed the directions given by the receptionist. The route was easy, and I made sure to remember the charming restaurant mentioned by the taxi driver, which happened to be just a few steps from her hotel. Furthermore, when I exited the taxi, I left the driver a generous tip. At 5:50, I entered the hotel lobby and stood in line at one of the reception desks. I exchanged a smile with a woman who motioned for me to come forward. "Hello," I greeted her warmly. "My name is Dan Cardiff. I'd like to know if my wife, Catherine Cardiff, is in her room right now. If so, I'd appreciate the chance to talk to her." "Catherine Cardiff," she said, double-checking and taking a moment to consult her notes. "Yes, she's a guest here. Give me a minute to check if she's in her room." With that, she dialed the room number. After a while, she turned to me with an apologetic tone. "I'm sorry, sir, but there was no answer. Would you like to leave a message?" "Not at the moment," I replied, a hint of disappointment in my voice. I was hoping to surprise her. We have an anniversary tomorrow. "I'd be very grateful if you didn't mention our conversation," I requested hopefully. "No problem, sir," she reassured me. I didn't catch everything she said. "I wish you a wonderful day tomorrow, sir," the woman added politely. "Thanks. I'm thinking about going to a restaurant. Maybe luck will be on my side," I responded. "Good night," I bid her farewell. Heading to the far end of the lobby, I spotted a noisy hall packed with people engaged in various activities. Working, serving, sitting, eating. It was very crowded, and I knew the chances of finding her there were slim. Then I noticed a restroom located on one side, closer to the back wall. I searched all around, scanning left and right, desperately looking for any sign of her presence. Despite my efforts, she remained elusive. After finishing my business, I settled near the corridor entrance and once again scanned the room. It seemed futile. Finding her in such a crowded place was nearly impossible. But then I unexpectedly caught a faint sound of laughter, reminiscent of hers. I followed the wall with my eyes, but towering booths obstructed my view, allowing only glimpses of the faces of the men and women with them. Reluctant to approach any table until I could escape her notice, I retraced my steps and turned my gaze toward the wall, slowly making my way along the row of tables, one by one. I reached the third one from the corridor where I was standing, and there, in that very booth, I saw her. She sat there, engrossed in conversation with a man I didn't recognize. She looked radiant, dressed in the same elegant dress she always wore on evenings filled with dancing. Their interactions seemed relaxed, as if they were entirely at ease in each other's company. I couldn't help but wonder what was really going on between them. It seemed far more close than a typical dinner with a colleague. My heart raced as he leaned closer to her, prompting me to instinctively grasp the doorframe for support. As she bent down, their lips met in a tender kiss filled with mixed emotions. I decided to leave the doorway and move to the center of the hall, sinking into one of the padded chairs with a high backrest. Time seemed to blur. I sat there, never taking my eyes off their table. Suddenly, I heard her laughter again, drawing my attention. Turning my head, I saw her walking beside him, holding his hand tightly with both of hers. Their closeness, along with the general atmosphere, piqued my curiosity. They strolled past me, just 15 feet away, and even though they conversed, my focus was solely on the adoring expression she wore as she gazed at him. It had been a long time since I had seen such an enamored look. At that moment, my breath caught in my throat, and I was momentarily speechless. I headed for the exit, my expression likely betraying my displeasure. Fueled by a surge of determination, I walked straight to the sidewalk. I couldn't take my eyes off them. She clung to his arm, leaning affectionately against him. I watched as they walked down the street, eventually turning a corner and disappearing into a restaurant I had noticed earlier. As I snapped out of my trance, I hurriedly headed for the door, suddenly realizing my surroundings. I decided to slow down, giving them ample time to move away from the entrance. I came to a halt, taking a few deep breaths in an attempt to regain my composure. Undoubtedly, there was meaning in the expressions on their faces, but I desired more, even though I couldn't fully comprehend what it was. Summoning my resolve, I pushed open the door and cautiously entered, staying close to the wall. Since the entrance was unattended, I patiently stood there, waiting until my eyes adjusted to the surroundings. Surveying the room, finally, my gaze settled on them sitting at a table meant for two at the far end. I made my way there, clinging to the walls with my hands as I sat down at a small table. The waitress promptly appeared behind me. "What can I get for you, dear? What'll it be?" she inquired. I replied, "Double scotch on the rocks." I overheard their conversation. "Our meeting tomorrow isn't until 10 o'clock, so we can celebrate late into the night," he said to Kate in a hushed tone. "I'm glad you didn't let him manipulate you into going home. We wouldn't miss our 2-month anniversary for anything," she exclaimed. "I can't believe it's been 2 months," she added. "It could have been longer," he remarked. "If only you had accepted my offer at the end of my first week at work," he reminisced. She laughed and added, "I had to play the innocent girl with you, considering that I'm supposedly married." She shook her head in disbelief, recalling the moment when he approached her in the presence of Marge and asked her out, fully aware of his marital status. "Marge actually told me that you liked me," he mentioned. "We should do something nice for her, because she played a significant role in bringing us together," Kate suggested as the waitress approached, served their drinks, and swiftly walked away. Raising their glasses, they toasted to the incredible 2 months they had spent together and the countless more to come. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said as their glasses clinked together. "There will be many more," she replied cheerfully. The waitress placed my glass in front of me and inquired, "Here you go, dear. Is that all?" I handed her a $10 bill and said, "Thank you, ma'am," before shifting my attention back to the adjacent table. They glanced up, but as strangers, my presence seemed inconsequential to them. Kate, noticing his gaze, turned and looked at me. "You know, a guy should always carry a camera with him for such moments," I remarked. Her expression was truly limitless, suitable for various posters, as she sat with her lips moving soundlessly. Wow, 2 months. This is a special anniversary. I still remember mine, but after 11 years, it begins to lose its novelty. Watching them both, I found myself saying, "Let's celebrate 2 months." It's a symbol of passion and prosperity, isn't it? Well, a lovely couple like you definitely deserves a gift. So here's my offer, I said, tossing the ring in Kate's direction. And here's a surprise. Paul interrupted Kate with a loud outburst. Realizing that staying here any longer would lead to trouble, I turned to Kate, who was trying to calm him down, and said, "Tell him how lucky he is that he wasn't in my home. Please contact me and let me know where you'd like to receive your belongings. If you're wise, you'll avoid coming to my house. Applying ice to your nose might reduce the discomfort," I stated. I turned around and departed, leaving the club. I walked briskly back to the hotel. It was unlikely that Kate knew my current address, and given my actions toward her friend, it seemed unlikely that she would pursue me to create distance between us quickly. I rushed into the lobby, approaching the front desk. "Excuse me, do you happen to have the contact numbers for airlines? I urgently need to book a plane ticket." The employee inquired, "Certainly, sir. May I ask about your preferred airline, as well as your desired departure time and destination?" After providing all the necessary information, she assured me that she would inform me about the flight details in my room. Back in the room, I began to pace back and forth, bewildered by the unfolding events. How could this have happened? Then a thought struck me. Perhaps Kate had missed her true calling in life. Her performance over the past months had been remarkable. As my frustration continued to mount, I realized I couldn't stay in the room any longer. Grabbing my bag hastily, I descended the stairs to the lobby. When I reached the lobby, the receptionist, who had just finished a phone call, motioned for me to approach. "Sir, if you leave now, you might make the last flight today. Registration closes in 30 minutes. If you miss it, the next flight is in 3 hours," she told me. I replied with a thanks, hoping the taxi drivers in the area were reliable. I signed the cash receipt handed to me by a woman. "I'm sorry I have to cut my visit short. Please stay with us next time," she said, smiling warmly as I headed for the exit. A rush of unforgettable memories washed over me. Rushing out of the lobby, I quickly grabbed a taxi from the nearby parking lot. "I bet you $50 you can get me to the airport in under 30 minutes, I said. As I took my seat, the taxi driver responded, "You got it, boss." Snapping me back to reality, he turned out to be experienced and got me to my destination in just 20 minutes. I paid the meter fare, added a generous $150 tip, expressed my gratitude, and hurried to the exit. Reflecting on it later, I realized there was no need to worry. I had a few minutes to spare. After passing security, I eagerly awaited the announcement of the boarding. Unlike last time, when I needed music to occupy my mind, with plenty of distractions around, a funny thought suddenly crossed my mind, and I had to suppress a laugh. I remembered that Kate's mother never really liked me. While Deborah seemed to have her husband under her thumb, she treated Greg poorly, almost like he didn't matter. But I couldn't tolerate her behavior, and she was aware of it. One day, she even accused me of eventually cheating on Kate, claiming she saw me glancing at other women when we were together. Throughout the entire flight, doubts about what was happening gnawed at me. I pulled out the photo I always carried with me of Kate and me, and studied it intently. The person next to Kate in the photo suddenly seemed unfamiliar. I glanced around to make sure no one noticed, then returned my gaze to the photo. In the picture, I stood beside Kate, but what caught my attention was the way she gazed into his eyes. It made me doubt. Although men aren't typically known for their memory, I considered myself an exception. Like most women, Kate often tested my memory by asking, "Do you remember this?" or "Do you remember that?" Unfortunately for her, I remembered everything. I recalled every conversation, every plan, and all the close secrets we whispered in the dark. Sitting there now, I couldn't help but wonder if I hadn't noticed this unfolding for 2 months. What else had I missed? The man had shown interest in her from the first week they met, but she claims she rejected his advances to maintain her appearance due to her marriage. The thought of them being together bothered me. I formulated a two-part plan. I'd go home, pack all her things, and take them to her mother's. Of course, the elderly woman would find a way to blame me, but the truth was what I saw. When we arrived at the airport, our family life was unraveling. I headed straight to my car and joined the exit queue. The drive home felt like a blur, and I couldn't remember much. Nevertheless, I reached my destination. The journey's duration remained a mystery, but honestly, it didn't matter. Stepping into the dimly lit house, I felt an eerie sense of unfamiliarity. The thought that I had to get used to this sight as the new norm consumed me. After dropping my bag, I headed for the kitchen. En route, I instinctively turned on the answering machine. A pleading voice on the other end said, "Dan, please don't do anything rash. I'm heading home to talk. Please wait until I get there." She sounded pained, conveying her emotions. I believed the cheater deserved punishment, but I didn't want to hear it, especially not in that voice. So I reacted impulsively and banged my fist. My actions may have been rash, but I needed to protect myself from foolish decisions. It was clear I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. I went to the garage and gathered all the suitcases she had collected over the years, choosing a large black suitcase and a bag for her clothes. I set them aside and took the rest to the bedroom. As I sifted through her closet, I carefully picked a few items. I quickly stuffed them into one of the large bags, repeating the process several times before turning my attention to the dresser. It had been ages since I'd seen underwear tucked in there. For a fleeting moment, the idea of grabbing some hot dogs crossed my mind. I was supposed to go to her mother's house, but I didn't want to, so I opted for a solitary gathering with lox and marshmallows. I didn't want to deal with her parents or anyone else, so I took matters into my own hands. Instead of waiting for her, I impulsively went to the hardware store to buy new locks. Upon returning home, I realized I couldn't leave the pile of stuff in the front room. Following my thoughts, I loaded everything into the car and headed to her mom's house. I drove carefully and unloaded everything near the garage, not wanting to burden Greg with extra work, especially since his wife and daughter wouldn't help him. As the third box fell to the ground, my mother-in-law appeared. "Hey Dan, what's all this?" "What's going on?" she asked. I explained, well, when Kate arrives, she might need her clothes. Initially, I thought she'd bring them herself, but I couldn't wait any longer. They were cluttering the front room. Confused and with a pale face, she inquired, "What do you mean when Kate arrives? I thought she wasn't in town yet. Why would her things be here?" "Deborah, I'm not entirely sure how she plans to sort things out, but I assume she might stay with you temporarily. She may be considering moving in with the person she's been spending time with, but I can't say for sure. That's why I brought her stuff," I explained. Seeing her face grow paler, she responded, "What are you implying? How can you accuse my daughter of such things? She had to stay there for work. She'd never cheat on you." Her voice trembled, nearing hysteria. "I even saw them together last time. They looked happy. They were joyfully celebrating their 2-month anniversary at a lively nightclub near their hotel. I repeatedly asked her to join me at home for our anniversary, and she regretfully said she couldn't. Determined, I hopped on a plane to be with her. However, when I arrived, I found them having an intimate dinner. The atmosphere was romantic, and I didn't want to intrude on their special moment. Besides, witnessing their tender kisses across the table, I needed some time to gather my thoughts. When they passed me in the hotel lobby, I contemplated saying something, but she gazed at him and whispered in his ear. At that moment, I couldn't bring myself to disrupt them either. I just needed some fresh air, so I stepped outside. To my surprise, they left and headed to the nearest nightclub. I sat at a nearby table and overheard her saying she didn't want to leave him on their 2-month anniversary, and he corrected her, saying it was their 3rd month. It dawned on me that if I wanted to leave, I'd have to intervene. I tried to stay inconspicuous, but I knew I had to find evidence. After 10 years of sobriety, I took my first sip of a drink. It had been 10 years since Kate expressed concern about my drinking, which she believed could jeopardize our marriage. In response, I had given her my wedding ring, thinking it was a sensible gesture to give each of them something of their own. But honestly, I preferred his gift over mine. Now, as I awaited her return and the inevitable dramatic confrontation, I was sure she'd seek shelter on my doorstep for a while. I stated this to shock her. "You're lying. How can you say such things about your wife, whom you've been with for 11 years? She's told me everything. She's deeply troubled by it." "I'll never refer to this woman as my wife again," I said. "You might feel obligated to support her because she's your daughter, but I have no such obligations. I witnessed everything firsthand, and for the past 2 months, I've been living alone while she's been living with him since he joined this company. It's astonishing to see how she's changed, given the upbringing you provided. She looked me in the eye for 3 months straight, lying to me every day without a hint of remorse. If you think I'll allow her back into my home, then you're even more foolish than she is. However, it's your choice what to believe, and that's your issue. Personally, I've chosen to cut my losses. It's clear that she has strong feelings for this guy, and he's free to have her. She won't need to hide their relationship anymore. As soon as she's done with her charades, I'll direct her to this place. You can see for yourself who's being dishonest."